Hi guys, it's Ryan here with Sigma Survival, and today's video is all about fasting in a survival situation, so stay tuned. So it's a lovely day here in the British summer, and I just thought I'd head out to the lake. Obviously I'm not in a survival situation or any kind of training context, but I just thought I'd bring you along for the ride really and talk about something that's been kind of bugging me a little bit, and that's calorie control and fasting in a survival situation. So let's get into it. Basal metabolic rate, this is the first thing I want to talk about, metabolism. So in order for us to survive and to keep the lights switched on, as it were, to keep our organs functioning, we have what's called a basal metabolic rate. Basal metabolic rate basically is the amount of calories minimal that you need to keep the lights switched on. So basically just to keep your organs functioning. If you drop below the basal metabolic rate, then it's just not good in general. Now, some people would argue that some calories are better than no calories. The problem with dropping below your BMR is that essentially you're pulling yourself out of a fasted state. Why do you want to be in a fasted state? A fasted state is an evolutionary survival tool in itself. Firstly, it's really good for your health. So it's going to boost your immune system, your heart function, your brain function. It's going to do a whole host of things. Even in a long-term situation, it's going to decrease the rate of cancer and things like that, but let's not get too much into that. But what it's going to do is it's going to give you an injection, a natural injection of growth hormone, okay? Your body's going to secrete growth hormone. This stuff is potent. It's going to keep your soft tissue, your muscles, intact. If you eat just a little bit of food, a few calories, anything more than 50 calories is the rule, but I would say anything, it's going to basically take you out of that fasted state. So if you keep putting stuff in your mouth as you find it, you're going to be in a bad situation if you're not eating enough calories that day. So this survival evolutionary response, it's crucial to long-term survival in my opinion. If you're fresh into a situation and you start picking wild edibles, or let's say you kill a squirrel or something and you eat that, it's not enough calories to maintain yourself even in a basal metabolic rate for that day. Now let's talk about when the BMR goes up. So your calorific needs are going to increase if you're doing something strenuous, being in a survival situation, building a shelter, hunting, finding water, carrying water, evacuating from an area. This is going to use calories. It's going to increase your basal metabolic rate. The best way to protect your body is to not eat for a few days. That is the best way, in my opinion. So my metabolic rate currently is 1,830 roughly. I used a calculator online. I'm not a mathematics whiz. I don't really look at that stuff too often. This is just to keep my organs functioning. That's a lot of calories. Like, I guarantee you cannot make that up with wild edibles or even like the odd thing that you're going to catch here and there. You're really going to struggle, especially initially. If I'm sedentary, it goes up to 2,200 calories a day. That's just walking to the toilet and back, grabbing maybe like some food from the kitchen. That's like under normal circumstances. That's without stress and higher brain function, because using your brain, believe it or not, burns calories. There's some top chess players that they burn a ridiculous amount of calories, more so than any athlete does physically. In a survival situation, I am not going to be sedentary, I can guarantee it. I'm going to be moving from point to point. I might have to run at times, I might have to lift heavy things, I might have to carry a heavy pack on my back. So if I'm doing heavy exercise, it's going up into the 3,500 calorie range, maybe even 4,000 calories, depending on what I'm doing. And that's a day. Now, if I'm in a fasted state, firstly, I don't have to worry about the food being digested and feeling sluggish and blood sugar spikes and drops. But also, I'm getting that human growth hormone. So that in itself is going to protect my muscle tissue from decreasing. This is going to be crucial, guys, for long-term survival. You know, soft tissue catabolism, as it's called, that's going to kill you quicker than probably most things in a long-term situation. But I can protect against that by just fasting for the first 72 hours, maybe for the first 5 days, while I get everything set up, you know, while I'm evacuating, while I'm doing whatever I'm doing. Okay, guys, so what can you do right now? Sorry, there's a duck in the background. What can you do right now? You could try fasting. Like, why would you want to leave it? Why would you want to sit on this knowledge knowing that potentially you're going to be better off for fasting in a bad situation? One thing that I would recommend is that you start practicing fasting now. Build it up. 12 hours fasting, 18 hours fasting, 24, 36, 48, 72. You know, some people fast for up to a week at a time for health reasons. But what would be the harm now in just practicing intermittent fasting, where you just have one meal a day, and then you build it up to, okay, well, I'm going to skip that and I'm going to do 2 days or 3 days of fasting. The health benefits are going to be amazing, but secondly, you're training your body to not be so reliant on food. So one thing I've found is I practice intermittent fasting on and off. I've also fasted for up to 36 hours, I believe now. It's difficult at first, you know, that the first 8 hours or so when you haven't eaten anything, you get like the ghrelin, which is like the hunger hormone kick in. Your stomach's grumbling, you feel like you're starving. You're really not. You can go for a lot longer than you realise without any food. One thing I will say is, if you are breaking a fast, there's a lot of resources out there on what you need to do, but just don't overeat, because you know you don't want to cause any sort of intestinal blockages. Another thing as well is keep electrolytes on you. You know, one of the most important things that you should have in a survival kit that I don't see very often is salt and other electrolytes. You know, full spectrum sea salt. This could be a lifesaver, and if you're fasting, especially in the heat, like the middle of the summer like it is now, putting a bit of that salt in your water is going to keep your electrolytes up. It's going to keep you feeling well and healthy. And you know, if you're not putting anything in your mouth, you're going to be missing out on those electrolytes, so it's very important to keep those up. Another thing as well, guys, when you fast, you end up detoxing. So your body naturally detoxes like all the old cells. It pushes gunk out of your intestines that weren't there before. Was there before, but you wasn't noticing it because you was filling yourself with so much food. So generally speaking, if you've never fasted before and then you're in a survival situation and now all of a sudden you have to fast, just by the situation itself, you've got no food and you have to not eat, you're going to be detoxing. You're going to have something called the Jarks-Herxheimer effect. You're going to be feeling awful, and it can even make you really ill. So what you should be doing now is detoxing, you know, once a month, or start intermittent fasting, and your body's going to get more used to not eating. Your stomach size is going to shrink, so you're not going to feel as hungry. All of these benefits are going to pay off in a survival situation, I guarantee it. Okay, guys, so what am I getting at? So what I'm trying to say is that there's survival and evolutionary perks that protect us against not eating for a few days. And you're not going to starve to death within a few days. Most people, you know, they say that we can go at least 3 weeks without food. If we have a bit more of a fat reserve, you know, you probably go a lot longer than that. In fact, the world record for fasting, I believe, spanned around about a year. The guy was quite overweight, Scottish guy. But generally speaking, I think that there's a few things that you take away from this. The first one is that calories are important, but you need to know your BMR. You know, if you're going out and you're hunting and you're trying to gather stuff, know that the exact amount that you need to bring back to sustain yourself, and know that potentially it's not going to be enough because you're in the wild. So prepare, you know, have high calorie foods at your disposal. Things like olive oil, as stupid as that sounds, you know, dense calorie foods. I'm going to go into this in another video anyway. You know, for the first few days that you're setting up a camp, fast, set up your camp, set up a smoking station for some meat, set up a shelter that's keeping you warm enough. You know, keep yourself as comfortable as possible. Don't make it so you're carrying water half a mile, you know, back to camp to boil it and whatnot. Make it so you're warm enough at night so you're not burning excess calories. All of these things matter. But when you're in that fasted state, at least you've got that growth hormone, at least you've got you know, some health benefits, and your brain is going to be functioning more from the ketones that are given off. But generally speaking, you know, I think that a lot of survivalists that say that you can rely on wild edibles, I think that that's incorrect. No one can live off of salad alone. I'm sorry, they can't. You know, things like acorns and meat, you know, are good sources of calories, and then, you know, you've got your wild edibles as like vitamins and minerals, some fiber. But there's really not enough calories in, let's say, nettles or plantain, whatever it is you're looking at, which is a plant source of food. There's not going to be enough calories, generally speaking, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. I think there's a lot of science to back up fasting as a very useful survival resource. We just have to look at it through the eyes of a survivalist. You know, that human growth hormone and the ketones that are going to improve brain function. And, you know, if we can train our bodies to not be as reliant on food in the short term, we're going to be much better off. I am going to talk about calories and, you know, useful tips and tricks, you know, different calories that are in wild food sources, like how many calories are in a squirrel, for example, or a fish, or, you know, wild edibles. So keep an eye out for that video, because that's going to be a good follow-up to this video. You know, it's going to give you a bit of an insight into how much food you need to be bringing in the wild to survive, or how many calories you need when you're bugging out, for example. So keep an eye out for that one. Please do like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And like I say, let me know in the comments what you think. I'm really interested to hear and get into it with some of you about the ins and outs of fasting. Anyway, thanks for watching. Until next time.